Friday conversation that we are about to have, and about one that is not just a medical issue, but it's a social issue as well, that's laced with a lot of stigma and many questions into how soon should young women be having children. And that's around the issue of fistula. We'll get into that in just a while. And just as we do, remembering that we are online and our live streams are up on YouTube, on Facebook, and on X, as well as our audience on KTN. A very good morning to you. When you're looking for that person that you can trust, when you're looking for that dream to pursue, that goal that you need to set, every milestone that you've achieved, guess what? There's a partner who stands with you. This partner is steadfast and they are unwavering. At I&M Bank, the promise is simple. We're on your side. Whether you're launching a new business, seeking financial guidance, or striving for personal growth, we are here to support and empower you every step of the way. The commitment extends to covering innovative solutions to impacting lives, because at I&M Bank, your aspirations fuel your mission. Discover the power of on your side banking. Find out more at any I&M bank branch close to you, and remember always that I&M is on your side. And we're getting into the weekend, so I have to remind you that your Naivas Kiloko is where you want to hang out, because your basket gets bigger and you spend less shilling. Let Naivas be your home of deals. At Naivas, we know shopping isn't just about ticking off a list, it's about the experience. And that's why Kikapu Kibonge is more than just a shopping basket. It's big, it's bountiful, and guess what? It never gets full. With unbeatable promotions, exclusive discounts, and everyday low prices, you just keep getting more and still spend less. So, from farm fresh ingredients to those little household must-haves, everything you need is waiting at your nearest Naivas Kiloko. So come fill your kikapu with value, variety, and the warmth of a true Kenyan shopping experience. Karibu Naivas, the home of deals. Jaza Kikapu Kibonge with Naivas. And so even as we get into looking into the intrigues around fistula, we'll do that in just a little bit of time. And we just had a conversation briefly earlier about, Wajiro, how negative we can be. But I keep saying that if that's what's served up on the buffet, what am I supposed to serve on my plate? That we're hard-pressed sometimes, or should we go out looking? Because I am of the school of thought that development begets development. You see something good, it spurs you on to want to do, and it does. Even with in a certain area, it replicates to another. Have we fallen victim, then, to being extremely negative when it comes to the things that we see, even in the wanton corruption and thievery and whatever, mismanagement? I mean, we could list for days. But have we fallen victim to constantly being negative about the things that we see?
I think, yes. One is you're speaking truth to power, and power is misbehaving, so you have an obligation to call it out. But then it becomes negative if it stops there. The thing is, what suggestions are on the table? And around those suggestions, what examples are there of those suggestions working? So I think the next step in this revolution, because I think it's part of the revolution, the process of pushing for good governance and inclusion and social justice, is not just to say what's not working and to call it out. It's to also focus on the solutions and what is working. So I think that balance needs to be found. Otherwise, people get discouraged, people get overwhelmed, they are unhappy, they are angry, and ultimately they switch off.
Indeed.
Because of
overload. Well, that is it. And we're getting into a Healthy Friday conversation this morning. Joining us in the studio, in the hot seat already, is Betty Kasioka, who is a specialist nurse for fistula care. And we say a special situation room welcome to you. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
We also should be joined by Judith Mweri, who's a fistula survivor. But we'll see how the morning goes and see if she will join us. But we're going to welcome you to the Situation Room, as we often do. We go around the African continent every week. We come back from a different African country with a basket full of proverbs. Normally, CT would do that for you, but he's not here. And so I'll step into that position. I want to tell you what the proverb is, and then I would like to get your interpretation of it. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
This week we've been in Mozambique. So it's our last day of being in Mozambique. And that's in the southern part of Africa, of course. And the proverb is this way. Whether the knife falls on the melon or the melon falls on the knife, it is the melon that gets hurt.
I agree with you.
Okay. How would you interpret that?
I would say that, one, the melon is the victim. The knife is the one that attacks the melon, whichever way. Whether the melon falls on the knife or the knife falls on the melon. Yeah. An injury will occur. Yeah.
So you must know your place. Where are you, whether you're the knife or the melon?
I could be both. Yeah. And being a lady, I could be both.
Well, okay.
Sometimes things are in my control, sometimes things not in my control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Very
You have
interesting.
power in
some instances.
and the same person doesn't have power.
In another instance. Indeed, the changing nature of society, I think, also does that to us as well. So this is a Healthy Friday conversation that we normally look at health matters on Fridays. And fistula is a condition that we have known about and we have heard about. Today, if I'm correct, is the International Day to End Obstetric Fistula. And we would like to get definitions of what fistula is for us to be all around it. Obviously, it's an obstetric issue, so it affects more than it's women. So we'd like to know, first of all, as we get into this, what is the medical definition of fistula and how does it present?
Okay. A fistula is an abnormal communication between two hollow surfaces. And in this case, an obstetric fistula is an abnormal connection between the birth canal and either the urine system or the digestive system. Yes, because a fistula can be on any other part of the body.
Yes.
But obstetric, nowadays we don't even use the word for obstetric. We call it the female genital fistula.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said there is an obstruction.
Abnormal
Connection.
Yes.
So that these two areas, which normally should not touch each other, now as a result of this are touching each other.
Yes.
Okay.
Normally the urine has its root, the stool has its root, and the birth canal where the baby passes through has its root.
Okay.
But for one reason or another, one or both end up communicating with the birth canal.
Okay.
Yes.
How on earth does this happen? Are you born with it? Does it happen as a result of surgery? Does it happen as a result of another process? How?
One, there are many causes. And the very first one is nutritional
Okay.
for the pregnant woman. That the pregnant woman needs to get a diet. We no longer talk about the balanced diet. We talk about the 10 food groups. She needs to eat about 5 of the 10 food groups every day so that she can build, she can have adequate calcium stores to be able to transmit the same to the fetus, that is the unborn baby, so that when the baby is born, it's born healthy. 2, on nutrition. When the baby is born, for the first 6 months, it should be exclusive breastfeeding for the baby to build strong bones. So that when that baby girl is about to become a mother, they have adequate, strong bones because milk, that is breast milk, is rich in calcium. 3, once the baby starts feeding, that is complementary feeding at 6 months, there is a guide in the mother-child booklet that guides the woman on how to feed this baby to ensure that they get adequate calcium in their diet. And they continue with breastfeeding for up to 2 years. From there, during that childhood time, the babies usually get some vaccines. I've met women who were given those vaccines in childhood. The nerves that are on the part that is injected, that is on the thigh, got destroyed, so they got some deformity of the legs. And when the deformity occurs, it affects the pelvic floor, that is the bone, the pelvic bone. Because once they limp, the joint affects the circumference of the bone inside. So when she'll be delivering her baby during her, during her youthful years or adulthood, the circumference inside the pelvis becomes small. So it will be a struggle for the baby to leave the uterus and to be born. 3 could be due to harmful practices, like the female genital fistula. Some communities in Kenya do it very inhumanly. Like they just, they chop everything and they stitch it up. Once the stitching is done, scar does not stretch. So the moment she tries to push that baby, she tears up the birth canal, and the place where the stool is supposed to come out from become one big highway. Allow me to call it that for now.
Okay.
Yes.
I want us to focus on that just a little bit, but I want us to go, and maybe Lydia, if you can just get us onto that screen there to look at this picture. And I don't know, Lydia, can you hear me? When you were talking about the pelvic bone having not been formed properly as a result of poor nutrition when this young woman when she was younger, are we looking at this part that sits on the bottom here? If you can just look at that screen there. This part that sits at the bottom, are we saying here, we're saying the pelvic floor? Or which part are we saying has not been formed properly?
I'm sure you can see some 2 sharp places from the upper, around the middle there. That is where there is that area that the baby comes through. We call them those istiotuberosities. You see where there's the coccyx. Now go to the left or to the right, there is that circumference there of the pelvis. If that does not form well, a woman gets something we call a contracted pelvis. It's normal for a man to have that type of a pelvis which is straight.
Yes.
But a woman needs to have a gynocoid pelvis. That is a pelvis that is round and can accommodate the baby to go through during delivery. And this is also affected like during the adolescent years. We know adolescents love things like chips, potato chips, and rarely will they eat greens that are rich in calcium. Rarely will they eat things like eggs. They just want to eat a lot of chips. And that is the time now the bone is really ready to expand as in preparation for womanhood. So once that area is contracted, it's very hard for the baby to pass through.
Okay, we'll try and put those pictures back up and then let you have a look at that. But then also looking at the one that you mentioned thereafter, when we're looking at issues around FGM, whereby there is, I studied this quite some and did quite a number of stories on this. So when we're saying that there was total circumcision and that it was really not cared for how it was done and then stitched back up, how does that then obstruct and form this illegal connection?
What happens is that once the baby tries to come out, of course the vaginal part of the woman stretches, but during the circumcision and the stitching after that, a scar was formed. If you stretch a scar, it will just tear. It will not stretch. And that's how there's a connection between the birth canal and should we call it the rectum? Or should I call it the way of the stool to make it a little bit nice? Yes. But I'd like to say that we have generally 2 kinds of fistula, like the urine fistula and the stool fistula. Like I said, the urine canal is on top of the vagina. The stool canal is below the vagina.
And they should not connect naturally at all. They
They
shouldn't.
should not connect.
Okay.
So now, if this bone is if the pelvic way is constricted, you know that is a bone.
Yes.
The fetal head is a bone. So if there's struggle with the baby coming out, that is for a long time, we call it prolonged obstructed labor. The two bones press either the urethra, that is the urine canal, or the stool canal. And if the pressing happens for a long time, those tissues around there die.
Okay.
Then when they die, there's something that we call the necrosis process. That is the dying of the tissues. It takes around 2 to 7 days. Right. The woman goes home, but within 2 to 7 days, she starts licking urine or licking stool or passing flitters. In Kiswahili, we call it kunyamba, through the vagina. Why? There is a small hole between the rectum and the vagina. So when the woman sits, it is well. But the moment she stands up, the fat comes out through the vagina very loudly, and she cannot control it because the vagina does not have a sphincter to close it. So it comes out, she cannot control it anywhere, anytime. But the stool fistula is more acceptable. The urine fistula is worse because if there is a hole between either the bladder or the urethra, that is the way of the urine, and the birth canal, you know, the urine area has like a stopper at the end where you can control the urine to come out. But this time the urine pours into the vagina, which does not have a stopper. So it flows day and
So
night.
it's constant.
Constantly, day and night. It cannot be cleaned and it cannot be controlled. And the agony of the matter is that the woman does not even understand what is happening to her body.
Okay.
2 weeks ago, we repaired an 80-year-old woman who has lived with the fistula for over 30 years. She didn't know what was happening.
Oh my gosh.
80 years. And after the first baby, she got another 11.
What?
Yes.
And she got the
She had the fistula with baby number one?
Yes, with the first baby.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So in this case, where we are talking about, so these things then, or is there a connection between, and I know that it has been carried in many a story, that is there a connection between early marriage or early childbirth, early pregnancy, and we say in terms of age of the girl, and fistula? Because if I go back, and Lydia, please, if you can put this picture up so that we can see what we're talking about here, that when we say that the pelvic bone or the pelvic area has not formed properly, in a girl who is 10, 11 years old, because that's the age that a lot of them are getting pregnant and having children, that it is very possible then that fistula would form, an obstetric fistula would form, if she's a baby.
Yeah.
She's still a baby at that age. If this area has not formed properly, then the chances of her carrying a baby and being delivered of it and then forming fistula as a result then is higher?
Yes. Yes. For adolescents or those who are not adults, there are two issues about it. One, it's the bone, and two, the tissues around the vagina. They are not mature. So the tissues will be injured because one, the baby is not able to pass there, so that injury will happen. And two, she will also tear. On Wednesday morning, I woke up to a message which was written to me at 3 a.m. This girl put some crying emojis, and she told me, I got my baby at 15 years. And I'm not able to control my fat. And it was a home delivery. So every time I get a man, they will just go once and ask me why I am white. And I don't know what's happening to me. I've been stressed for years. She's had the same problem for 13 years. Of course, I cannot mention her name. And many others. Yes. The tissues are immature. The bones are immature. So if we can delay our young girls from getting pregnant, that would be better.
Okay.
If our young girls can be allowed because they are sexually active. Let's agree. If they can be allowed to prevent pregnancy until they're mature enough, that will go a long way in preventing the female genital fistula. Because as we speak in Kenya, over 24,000 women are living with the female genital fistula, and they don't understand what is.
How many?
Over 24,000, and only 7.5% of these are able to
Seek help.
Yes. And then, of course, in our training, I've been in the School of Nursing 3 times, certificate, diploma, and degree. The fistula was mentioned in passing.
Oh, really?
Yes. So most of the time, even majority of healthcare workers are not able to diagnose that. So the woman will suffer years on end without her and the healthcare worker understanding what is happening to the body of the woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break in a minute, but just to make some clarifications here, that, or rather to ask, the formation of fistula, beyond what happens in terms of development, your nutrition, your calcium, your folic, and all of that, we are saying that there are other obstructions that are not natural that take place that essentially form this fistula.
Yes.
Okay.
The things that we call iatrogenic fistulas. That is fistulas that are formed during a procedure. Like when a woman is getting cesarean section, the ureter that carries urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder is nibbed or is cut or is injured. So the urine forms in the pelvic area and it finds its way out to the vagina. During surgeries, like some women are done, the removal of the uterus, we call it hysterectomy. During that surgery, it can happen. During any other surgery around the vagina. 2, there are women who get reproductive health cancers. So they eat away the tissues of the urine system or the stool system. 3, the treatment of cancers also burns. That is the radiotherapy.
Yeah.
Also burns tissues around there. Yeah. Accidents. The women who get accidents and they get fractures of the pelvic bone. Those bones injure either the urine system or the stool system and they get fistulas. Yes, but majority are due to delivery.
In your view, because when I was doing my little research, I saw that Kenya joined the campaign to end obstetric fistula in 2004, which is quite some time. But I also read that this was a bit dated. It was saying the Kenya Health Strategic Investment Plan of 2018-2023 addressed the health issues broadly, because it talks about nutrition and all of that, but didn't specifically address fistula, obstetric or otherwise. Why is it so difficult to get fistula on the agenda? And how realistic would it be to end obstetric fistula and maybe some of these others? What are the campaign goals?
Okay, one thing I'll tell you is that the female genital fistulas are formed every day, even as we sit. They are formed every day. Like every year in Kenya, we get 3,000 new fistulas occurring. How many per hour? Maybe someone can do the maths. And they form due to many issues. Like in reproductive health, we talk about the 3 delays. 1, the woman delays to make a decision to go and deliver in the hospital. So it might happen that she'll deliver in the house. 2, the woman arrives to the hospital, but there is a delay in intervention. Or for many reasons, although she's in the hospital, she might not get a midwife or a doctor to be able to conduct that delivery, because obviously the nurses and midwives shortage is there worldwide.
Yes.
So she
Like-
would have to deliver herself.
Sometimes it will happen because, like, if, for example, there are 2 midwives on duty or 3, and 6 women are pushing their babies at the same time.
Yes.
What happens?
Okay.
3,
The third delay.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go to the third delay, resources in the hospital. There might be just 1 theater, but you need to do like 3 CSs at a go. By the time the rest waits, the fistula is already formed.
Yes.
Yes. So let me talk about the delays. Delay deciding to seek care. Delay in reaching the facility, our roads. At times it's at night. At times the woman does not have resources. Sometimes
She's in a
traditional.
remote area or whatever.
Yes, my mother-in-law must be there for you to deliver. The mother-in-law lives far. And then now the third one is to get adequate care at the hospital. So decision making, reaching the facility, and adequate care.
Would you
Yes.
say that obstetric fistula as a whole, is strongly linked to poverty or low income?
Yes, it is linked to low income. It is also linked to illiteracy.
Okay.
Yes. Like, it would be diagnosed earlier that this woman might get a fistula. So the woman is supposed to start her antenatal clinic the moment she realizes that she's pregnant. But majority of women just come just once instead of 8 visits. Like now, if someone has abnormality of the pelvis, you'll plan early. If the client is a teenager, you will not allow them to go into labor. You'll plan their cesarean section late, but they'll come when the baby is already stuck. There's
I
nothing
see.
much you can do.
And at the time the baby is stuck is when that obstruction essentially is going to happen.
That's when it's happening, and pressing the tissues around the pelvic girdle and forming the
Because
fistula.
of lack
Okay.
of awareness,
Of
stigma,
what's going on.
of teen pregnancy. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's take a
Yes.
break at this point, because then I want to come back and for us to have a look at then what really happens beyond the medical. We also know, based on the things that you are saying, if somebody essentially is leaking for years on end, there's a lot more than the medical or the physiological that comes into play here. There is stigma. There is people that we've heard staying holed up in their homes for forever because they just cannot come out. We're looking at the intrigues around obstetric fistula this morning, and then trying to ask ourselves many questions around then what can be done to ensure that these issues essentially come to an end. Betty Kasioka is a nurse dealing specifically with fistula care, and she joins us on our Healthy Friday conversation this morning. We'll continue when we come back from this break. Currently now at 22 minutes to 9 o'clock. It continues after this.
When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra. For fast relief of strong pain, like headache, toothache, muscle pain, and I am finally released from pain. Try Panadol for fast and effective relief from strong pain. Now available at an affordable price.
As an abstract artist, I am free to allow my mind to be as creative as it wants, to go in whichever direction that it goes without having any boundaries or limitations. Surprisingly, my ideas come from very simple things. It could be anything, very random things. If you notice your child has an artistic talent, support them. If you see, for example, they are scribbling on the wall with charcoal, okay, that is wrong. Don't beat them. Just tell them, don't scribble on the wall, don't scratch the wall. What you do, you tell them that's not right, but you buy for them a drawing book, you buy for them a pencil. Talent knows no color. Talent knows no race. Talent knows no ethnicity. Anybody can enjoy it. Anybody can appreciate it. And it's for all of us to enjoy and appreciate it.
Panga mwambie msaidie hivyo hivyo. 5 seconds. Who was the first human to go into space? Give me the answer. Give me the answer.
Elon Musk.
Pardon?
Elon Musk. A motorcycle?
No sound.
Calling my husband. Calling the office.
Speak about the other has been curated using newspapers. I see you.
Him seeing his grandfather liking reading newspaper, it struck an interest in him.
It has taken us a whole year to complete the whole job.
This was once a church. It was moved from where it was and planted here.
Somebody saw the value in it and made it into art.
Karen Village is a creative innovation hub center.
You are a creative nerd, art speaks to you, and you are a history buff. I tell you, this place is for you.
Morning is around obstetric International Day to end obstetric fistula, and Betty Kasioka is a specialist nurse in fistula care, and she's with us this morning. So just we've looked at the physiological presentation of fistula. We understand what's going on, that there is an obstruction, and so what happens is that now there is a connection between two parts that should not have any business being connected. I mean, that's my layman's way of putting it. It doesn't sound medical at all, but kind of makes sense that two parts that shouldn't be connected are connected. And fluids that should not be going into one area of the body are going there. And so that sounds to me like something that would be terrible to have to deal with physically, physiologically, but then also on a social level. I can only imagine, because what you've told us is that there is, from the digestive tract, because that is waste, doesn't smell very good. It's going into and leaking out of this woman's body in a way she cannot control. And we also have the urinary tract then connected directly towards the vagina in a way that is not natural. So I would imagine that then she goes through a very, very difficult time even going outside. What are we talking about here?
We're talking about one, lack of knowledge. Because the woman knows she's suffering, but she doesn't know what is happening to her body. And because majority of them give birth when they are very young, they think that it's normal to be that way.
And of course, if she goes to the healthcare providers who can't diagnose her, it reinforces.
Yes. Of course, we've had instances where the woman goes and says, I can't hold my urine. So they're told, go for a urine test, go for a scan. And those ones will not show a fistula. Yes.
A scan won't show a fistula?
No. What are you scanning? The bladder may not have a hole. The hole is down here. What are you scanning? Two, apart from lack of knowledge, there is stigma.
Of course.
There is stigma.
It's reproductive, it's excretory. Yes.
Majority of men run away. Who wants to live with a woman? Every time he wants to have sex with her, he comes out with stool.
Oh my gosh.
Who would live with such a woman? Who wants to live with a woman who leaks urine on the bed, on the seats, on the streets, everywhere? They will live. Very few of them will remain, maybe 1%. Because one, they don't understand. Two, this woman is stinking. And I remember there's a woman who got a fistula in 1982 and repaired her in 2018. So she would go to the market. So the woman would say, the women in the market would say, don't sell to this woman, she doesn't shower.
Oh no.
But she does shower, but the flow is constant.
Okay.
Yes. She was even thrown away by her family, where she was married, went to her home. They decided to build her a mabati house at the river so that the urine can go there. And she lived in that mabati house until a new neighbor heard the story and brought her for repair.
But I have to ask, and it may sound insensitive, and unfortunately, some of the questions around some of these issues just do, that surely if you lived normally, and before an event that took place, that after which you realized and you recognized that something is not normal anymore. Pre this obstruction, there was normalcy. This didn't used to happen because you've told us that you're not born with this thing.
No.
Okay?
Really.
So before that, you did not have this constant leaking of waste. After this thing happened, you then have this presentation. From the women that you've spoken to, because it's not just a repair that you're doing, I'm sure you must have had conversations around what's going on. What is the reason as to why, when you know, because it's not unnoticeable, it is very noticeable. What are the reasons as to why they don't go to seek care or even to question what may have happened to me that I am now suffering this thing?
One, women are not able to travel, for example, if they're leaking urine.
Okay.
They may not be able to travel in matatus or anyway. In fact, when they're coming from far, we tell them, don't eat much the previous night. Don't take water. So that when you're coming,
it's minimized.
Yes. Very few will afford a diaper so that they can be able to seek. And when they come to me as a healthcare worker, I don't know what's happening to the woman. I may not examine the woman. So she goes back home with her problem. At times they come because of the stigma. They just look and then when you ask them, what's the problem?
Or you start asking invasive questions.
She'll tell you, I have a headache. She will not talk about the problem that she came with. Yes, there is no support. But I thank God for the community health promoters. They are being trained, like in the county where I work in Kiambu County. We have trained all the community health promoters through the intervention of AMREF. And we've been able to train them to be able to ask questions which will tell us whether there is a fistula or not. And once they get it, they get the clients, they refer the clients to some of us, because these things are interests. We were trained, many of us, but majority don't want that thing of being kunukiwa na stool, urine.
Because it's messy.
It's messy. Actually, sometimes when I work with clients through the clinics to go and examine them, you'll see the other patients holding their nose because whoever is passing is smelling. So they refer, and we are able to send them to our fistula surgeons, who are 8 in Kenya, because not every obstetric gynecologist is a fistula surgeon.
8 is a very small number.
It's a very small number.
Out of how many gynecologists?
There are hundreds. There are hundreds, but not all of them have the interest.
So it's preventable, it's treatable.
Yes.
But in terms of and I think on a positive note, the community health care promoters is a very strong avenue for sensitization and identification. But then come the need for the surgery, that's a very big bottleneck if there are only 8 surgeons. And can I just, as you speak to that gap in the availability of care, what is the cost of the surgery? Is this surgery covered under, was it covered under NHIF? Is it now covered under SHA? Is it accessible? So once a woman has been diagnosed through the community health care promoter, can they afford and access care? Treatment, rather.
One, the cost of repairing one female genital fistula is around 350,000 Kenya shillings. And of course, SHA covers it in the public facilities. But who is there to do the surgeries?
Oh, this is the problem.
Yes.
So this is it seems as though it's presenting a different kind of problem here, because it will be covered. And we're saying that any woman who is covered under SHA, who's up to date and has this condition, can actually have the surgery, should walk into the hospital and not have to pay a cent. That's what we're saying.
Yes.
But the problem now is that we don't have enough people who can actually perform this thing.
So how are you dealing? Do you need, we've had doctors coming from Cuba and all of that. How are we dealing with this, and what's your strategy to get enough surgeons?
What we do is that we have partners. AMREF is a very big partner of the government. We have some other partners called Fistula Foundation. So once we get the clients, depending on where they are in the country, we send them to those fistula surgeons. Some do the surgeries in public hospitals, others do them in private hospitals, but they are paid for by the
Public.
partners,
by the partner.
like AMREF and Fistula Foundation and whichever other.
Okay.
And among the 8, not all of them can repair all kinds of fistulas. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how long would a surgery like this take? I guess maybe dependent on how it's presenting. But how long is this something that you can do today and be out? Like a day surgery, or must you?
No. Okay. Once the woman arrives, depending on which one it is, if it's a stool fistula, the woman can be repaired and go home within 4 days. But
Almost
if
like a
it's a
Caesar.
urine fistula, depending on whether the injury is towards the exit, that is at the urethra, or at the ureter, that's the one that brings urine from the kidney to the bladder, they'll stay between 7 and 14 days in the hospital being managed.
Okay.
So there's a huge cost to care.
There's a huge cost to care.
But
we
this
hope
is covered under
partners are the ones that cover it.
not
SHA?
NHIF SHA.
SHA will cover, but who will do the surgery?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're understanding
Yeah.
now. It makes a difference. Okay.
So what's
I
your
want to-
strategy to get? How do you? What's your strategy? Like now you say AMREF, and I realize AMREF was so much of their money came from USAID. USAID has now pulled out because government of Kenya, in terms of investment in healthcare, I think the last time I checked was 6%. It could be less, and that goes towards everything. So a lot of our healthcare delivery is supported by development partners. It's a tragedy. We call ourselves a sovereign country, but we don't do the basic. Now, with donor funds running short, what's the situation on the ground?
Okay, what I know is that AMREF and Fistula Foundation have partners with counties for camps to happen in the public facilities and for obstetric gynecologists to be trained. But like I said, it depends on the interest.
Okay.
Yes, because you might train them like we've had trainings, but from there, they don't continue.
practice.
It's interest. Yes. So they've been sponsored, they've been trained, but now the continuity is the problem.
Okay. So I know I want to go back to this because usually we may not be able to understand the gravity of something unless we see the details of it. And if we're just using that one example that you've shared with us, that a woman with fistula, what happens or what compounds the problem as she has more children? She's got fistula already, and she gets pregnant on top of that, and has another baby. So we're just compounding the issue on top of an issue. Is there further damage that would possibly happen if there are, pregnancies upon fistula over and over again? Are we not making the situation worse?
Okay, one thing I would like you to note is that if the woman's bones, pelvic bones, are contracted and she continues getting pregnant, most of the babies who are born don't even survive.
Oh.
Because there's injury to the head and there's injury to the woman that continues to happen with every pregnancy. So most of the time the babies are born dead. Like I know of a woman who should be having 11 babies, but she has 2.
Oh my goodness.
The 2 that survived, a cesarean section was done. But throughout all those deliveries and the cesarean sections, no one ever dealt with the urine issue. The husband left to a woman probably who could not get a fistula, who happened to be married. Her husband was on safari. So he came and announced the guy was beaten to death. This woman changed her religion. She tied the Mokorino Kitamba to see whether the fistula would go. She was prayed for, nothing, for 30 years.
Awareness.
Yes, because women do not understand what's happening to them, and majority of healthcare workers do not understand. So what I do, I'm on social media a lot. I put my number there. And in every other platform, and I say, if you get a woman whose urine pours 24/7, who cannot hold stool, the moment she feels like she wants to go and pass stool, before she reaches the toilet, it pours out. Or a woman who got a tear during delivery, or a woman who cannot control her fat and it comes out from the front, call me on this number. I've gotten women from within Kenya, without Kenya, and send them to the hospital which is nearest to them, depending on which fistula it is. So we really need to talk about this. Yeah.
After the surgery is performed, do we then see that there is normalcy? And after how long?
One, the healing process depends on several issues. One, the nutritional status. Majority of women who get these fistulas are not fed well, so they might not heal.
In fact,
with the first intention.
On the issue of nutrition, there are parts of the country where women actually have small pelvises. Maybe we'll come to that.
Women of short stature most of the time. So, majority heal by first intention, depending on the care. Because like if a woman has been repaired a stool fistula, one, she's not supposed to do heavy jobs for 3 months. She's not supposed to have sex for 3 months because the place will tear because of the pressure. No wearing of panties, bikers or trousers so that they can
heal,
aerate the place and heal.
Yeah.
And no use of tissue paper. Tissue paper is made from waste. If some is stuck there, it will cause infection. So it's cleaning with water. Yes. The urine fistula, once it's repaired, except for the heavy lifting and the sexual intercourse, which they should not have for 3 months, it heals easier than the stool fistula. And again, that woman is not supposed to deliver within 2 years of repair. And if she gets pregnant any other time, because just like the FGM, when they're repaired, the urine and the stool fistula, a scar is left. So any other pressure will tear the place apart.
Indeed.
So we counsel them that any other pregnancy, they should deliver by cesarean section. And remember that cesarean section can also cause a fistula. So expertise and training. Yes.
So really it's the general nutrition is very important.
Very vital.
And it's interesting that you say it's not only early, it's not natal, not the young child, the breastfeeding. It's nutrition in childhood, but also in adolescence.
Yes.
Because that's an age when girls are more worried about how they look and the figure and all of that. So one, there is, the access to a balanced diet. That's a socioeconomic issue.
Food groups.
Food groups.
10 food groups. Each like 5.
Maybe tell us a bit about that.
About the 10 food groups. The first group is about the cereals, that is the wheat and the maize and the rice.
Yes.
Then the second one is the vegetables. Third is the fruits. Fourth is the meat. That is lean meat, poultry, animal proteins. And if you're in China, you can take the snake and the frog and what have you.
It's still protein.
It's still very yummy. I've taken these things.
Yes.
Then the fifth is the eggs. They're very rich in iron.
Yes.
Then there are the tubers. Those are the potatoes, sweet or otherwise, and the roots, the cassavas and what have you. The seventh is the fish or other seafoods like, they're rich in omega-3 and protein. The eighth is the legumes. Those are the nuts and the seeds, the beans. Beans are also seeds,
Yes.
Then the ninth is
Beans
the milk.
are legumes.
No, they're in the group of legumes.
Yes.
Seeds.
Yes.
Legumes.
Yes.
Yes.
Then the ninth is the milk and the milk products. These are very rich in calcium. That is the milk, the yogurt, the butter, and what have you. And the other is the oils and the fats. Because when you take the vegetables boiled, they'll not help in the body. They'll just be roughage. So you need to add oil so that the nutritious part of the vegetables can be transported inside the body to help you nutrition.
So you're saying at least 5?
At least 5 every day.
Oh, every day.
Every day, at least 5. Yes.
Okay.
Which 5? I mean, what do you mean? The balance.
Any 5.
The balance.
Okay. We no longer talk about the balanced diet.
That thing is it's gone.
Yes.
That was.
We talk about
so
the
if
food
I
groups.
eat mainly proteins, if I do milk, meats, eggs, fish, and some fats, am I okay?
You may be okay, but you look at, like, for example, you need starches for strength. You need milk and water.
Keto diet says it.
Our time is running out really literally in seconds, but the thing is that we've talked about this being a socio-economic issue as well, so that there are folks today who are not able to afford. We're talking about affordability, a balanced diet. So what do we do in terms of making sure that they get something? And this is a message that needs to go out there. I can't do milk, fish every day. I can't do that. We have people now who are eating ugali and vegetables. That's what they can get. What can we do to ensure that girls who are growing up will not have this pelvic obstruction as they do?
Like I said, when her mother is pregnant,
Spice up your...
She can take tuber, that is
with beans.
cassava.
Potato?
With beans.
Yes, and the beans, those things we call the beans and the legumes should be soaked for at least for 12 hours before they are being cooked, so that they can unlock the food value. Then they can take a boiled egg.
Okay.
They can buy jugu karanga worth 5 shillings.
Yes.
So it's still nutrition, it's still balanced.
It's all of that.
Yeah.
Nurse Kasiako, will you share your number with us? Share your number. There are folks who want to be able to get in touch with you because obviously there's an issue and folks who even know people. So please share your number as we close this.
My number is 0725 91 1515.
0725 911515.
Yes.
Fistula care specialist nurse Betty Kasioka has been our guest this hour, looking at issues and intrigues around obstetric fistula. International Day to End It today is what is being commemorated. Thank you so much for being in the situation room with us this morning.
Thanks very much.
Asante.
I'm grateful for according me this opportunity to be able to talk to Kenyans, and of course KTN goes outside Kenya.
Yeah, and we'll do this again.
Yes, and I'm ready to talk about this any other time that you call me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At 9:01, good morning.